Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk. And I'm in the middle of a how to message series where we're going to look at and are looking at how to different things with our faith. And so for this episode, what I want to talk about is how to love ourselves biblically and in the image of God. And this wasn't one of my planned how to's. And I apologize. I'm in a different office today because I'm about to go out of town for a week. So I'm recording this a day early. And I normally come in at 5 a.m. To record, but I'm recording midday. So I had to find an office that is quiet. And so that's why the background's different. But uh, I read an article that kind of made me think, this is something we got to talk about. In fact, I'm pretty sure most of you are not going to agree with me. Now, I want to remind you there's a comment section under Spotify where you can kind of leave your comments and you can see the other comments that people leave. And I think this probably has the potential of having a lot of comments to be left because what I'm going to say today is going to probably offend a lot of people. Now, normally there's things that I say that offend lots of people, but it doesn't normally offend you because there's kind of those that are on the left and then those who are on the right. And, and I don't think this is a left or a right issue. I think people on the left do what I'm about to talk about, and people on the right do what I'm about to talk about, but they do it for probably totally different reasons, but they still do it. So this may be a little offensive, just letting you know it might be. So the Pope came out in the Catholic Church came out with a statement, basically because there's been such an increase in cosmetic surgery and emphasis on self. And what are the spiritual implications of it? And I have to tell you, I read it. I not only found it interesting, I really agreed with it, but I don't suspect that most of you are going to. I'm going to read most of the article for you because that's kind of the gist of where this is coming from. And then I've got my own kind of perspective on it. And I, I'll be interested to hear yours as well. And part of the reason why I'm doing this is I feel like recently I've heard of several people, several different stories, different articles of people who've either died because they're getting like mommy makeovers. Like after they're done having kids, they want to have their tummy tucked. They want to have certain things like refirmed up, enlarged, blah 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 blah. So I've heard like a read articles of some influencers. I feel like more than one in the last couple of weeks that have died as a result of this. Read a story of some guy that would give himself like fake muscles dying from that, the complications of doing that and so forth. Or I've just heard stories of people that are fighting a very serious infections because of cosmetic surgery that's being done. So, like, I think this is something that we should wrestle with, in that it does have some spiritual implications to it. And so that's why I'm covering it on God Talk. But because we're all into like vanity in in not only America, but really the world nowadays, because we've exported it across the world. I don't suspect that you're going to agree with me, especially because like pastors don't preach on this. I don't think. I don't think I really have, not in the depth that I'm about to do in this podcast. But once again, this all comes from Pope Leo and the Catholic Church kind of issuing a statement on this. So you can find this article, but I'm going to read a large part of it anyways. But it goes like this. So Pope Leo the 14th is warning against a growing cultural obsession with physical perfection and cautioning that cosmetic surgery trends, extreme beauty standards, and even modern weight loss treatments can distort how people view the body that God has created. Now, let's just stop there for a second. Are you going to disagree with that? Like, God gives us our bodies and he creates it, but like, I guess there's always been this kind of push to have this perfect body and we idolize it. It's just they used to do it in magazines with airbrush and glamour shots or something like that when I was a kid. Like me, they could take someone that was very average looking, make them look amazing, and you show this to a buddy, hey, I got this girl you can date or whatever. Whoa, she's amazing. And no, not so much. the power of airbrush. But now, like, we can do that. We can do a lot of that stuff through cosmetic surgery and just different things. So there's this emphasis that's being put on beauty, and it's obtainable, where before it used to be more like maybe smoke and mirrors, right? In a newly released Vatican document approved by the Pope, church leaders address the rise of cosmetic procedures and appearance focused trends that prioritize outward perfection over spiritual identity. That is, like, there's this push for this perfect outward appearance, but our spiritual identity to being made by God, given the body that He's given us, being made in the image of God, like that's suffering a little bit here. And I think you have to agree with that. It warns society's pursuit of the ideal body can create what is called a dangerous cult of the body. What do you think? Like, I think we have that trend in today's society, a cult of the body. Like, we worship the body, and we're trying to create the perfect body. It goes on to say we cannot ignore the trends that reduce the body to biological material to be enhanced and transformed and remodeled at will. We can do that. This seems to be true. The document argues that advances in cosmetic surgery and aesthetic treatments have significantly altered how people understand their bodies and their identity. Like, our identity, it probably always has been linked somewhat to our bodies, but even more so now. Rather than accepting the body as a gift from God, it says, some individuals now view it as something to reshape an endless pursuit of cultural ideals. Now, that's the interesting thing, is like, we can keep reshaping our bodies to fit what culture says. Kind of like clothing has trends. There's trends where, like, maybe, just a little bit of a full rear end is in, and then you see these people, and it's like they got a lot of junk in the trunk. Like, that used to not be a compliment, but kind of like, as clothes go in and out of season, as body shapes go in and out of season, you can just kind of chase that. Like, your body's just something to be changed and altered, kind of like clothing trends. Is that not true? According to the commission, the mindset can create a troubling dynamic in which people feel detached from their own bodies instead of embracing who they are, and they begin to chase a manufactured version of themselves. We become detached from our bodies, and we're trying to find, like, happiness through it. Isn't this what transgenderism is all about? We don't feel good about who we are as a person. We change what we look like in order to feel better about ourselves, but then they don't ever end up feeling better about themselves. And so, once again, like, where's the line there? What's the difference? The church emphasized that while plastic surgery is not outright forbidden, once again, I agree that it's not outright forbidden, procedures motivated primarily by vanity or cultural pressure can lead people down a spiritually unhealthy path. Can it? Maybe. The ideal body is exalted, sought after, it's cultivated, while the real body is not truly loved, uh, because it's limited in the nature, it's fatigued and it's aging. Christian teaching has long emphasized that the human body is created in the image of God and it deserves dignity and respect. The document argues that when people begin treating their bodies as merely objects to be modified according to trends, they risk losing sight of the deeper truth. This is where some of you may disagree. I don't know that I do disagree. I think we lose, like, the uniqueness of how God creates us, and I'll get into kind of my opinion on this actually in a little bit, so I'll leave it at that. One desires a perfect body while dreaming of escaping from one's concrete body and its own limitations. Now, the Vatican's message comes at a time when cosmetic procedures, weight loss drugs, and online looks maxing trends have surged in popularity, especially amongst the younger audience. Yet the commission stressed that the issue goes beyond aesthetics and it touches on humanity's relationship with God. These transformations influence the relationship with the mystery of the origin of ultimately the end of human life. The document explained when human beings reduce created nature to be matter that's transformed, they no longer manifest the glory of the creator, but they replace him. Some of you aren't going to agree with that. Still, the Vatican's core message remains rooted in faith. Human worth is not determined by physical appearance. For Christians, the document suggests that the path forward is not found in chasing perfection in the mirror, but embracing the body as a sacred gift from God, one meant to be cared for, not endlessly remade in the image of cultural trends. Now, listen, there's going to be a couple statements in there that maybe you're not willing to take it there. But for the most part, like intellectually, and I would even argue theologically, like this is solid. And this is an issue that we need to address in society today. It is a vanity that can now be obtained. And the more vain we become, I think the more we distance ourselves with the creator who created us in his image. All right, here's my thoughts. The first is this: if only we cared half as much about our spiritual body as we do about our physical body. Seriously, think about the time that some of us spend on getting ready and looking good. Think about the money that we spend on some of these procedures, right? If only like we looked at our spiritual body and we wanted our spiritual body to be as beautiful as what we want our physical body, that we're willing to do everything that we can to have a perfect spiritual body. Like if that was the part of the body that we're focused on, how different would it be? But it's not. We're way more concerned with the physical body. And I'm not saying that people can't be concerned about the physical body and the spiritual body. In the end, our bodies are temples of God, right? So they are to be cared for. But what I'm saying is this: you spend way more time worrying about what you look like physically, most of us, than what you look like spiritually to others or to God. And that's just reversed. It just shouldn't be that way. So in and of itself, like the problem of this like push towards kind of perfection of the human body and anti-aging and all these different things that we're chasing after, like it all shows the deficit of what we're really not focusing on when it comes to our spiritual body, our relationship with God, and just kind of the growth of who we are as a person and a follower of Jesus Christ. My second point is this. So I got to get this straight. It's wrong to change gender because God made them a certain way, and they're made in the image of God, and that shouldn't be changed, right? Like those of us on the right, we're against gender change. I said the left and the right do this for different reasons, right? The ones on the left are going to do it for more things like this, maybe. I don't know, maybe for vanity's sake too. But uh, we're against that. But it's okay to supermax your body, right? So why why is it wrong to change gender because God didn't make you that way? But it's not wrong to supermax your body when God didn't make you that way. Like, okay, I'll agree. There's some differences. I mean, there's an extreme in changing gender, but the argument is that's not how God made you, and you're changing your body. But with all these cosmetic procedures, that's not the way that God made you, and you're changing your body. Once again, I'm not going to go as far as to say like we're scripturally forbidden from this. I mean, especially like sometimes we get in accidents and our body becomes deformed. Maybe we're born with some birth defects. Listen, if someone gets a breast reduction because like they're in chronic back pain, like I think there's times and place, medically speaking, for some of these surgeries. But when we do it because we don't like the way that God made us and for vanity's sake, I think we have a hard time arguing it's wrong one way, but it's okay the other, even though there's a difference. I recognize there's a difference. Um, Third thought on this is oftentimes we do this because we want to feel better about ourselves. Honestly, that's why people change their gender, right? They're depressed and they're just unhappy in their own skin. And so what do you do when you're unhappy in your own skin? They change their gender. Now, they never become happy in their own skin, like because there's a deeper like psychological issue that's going on there. But that's why they do it. That's also why we do it on the other side of things. Like we just we're unhappy with life or ourselves. Listen, after breakups, that's why the fat guys go out and jog and then start lifting weights, and why the women like sometimes get these surgeries. Like you want like your ex to be like, man, why didn't I have that when I was with them? Why were they fat and lazy and didn't care about themselves when I was around? Like we want them to regret that, and also we want to look the best as we put ourselves in the market for whoever might be coming next in our lives. But it stems from an unhappiness with who we are, what we've become, and then like there's just kind of that aging thing, right? Like I don't know. You start getting age spots. You spent a lot of time in the sun damage, wrinkles. You just like, yeah, I'm not ready to be old yet, right? So how does that play into it? In the end, it all comes from a dissatisfaction with who we are in this process. Uh, in some cases of aging of who we become, right? And listen, I'm gonna admit to you, this is nuanced. I don't have all the answers. I'm just posing the question, and I'm telling you, like, there's spiritual implication here. I'm telling you, I can't wait to hear your opinions on this because I guarantee you guys are gonna have some opinions. Be nice. It's nuanced. Okay, how about injections and fillers? I mean, the people that get rear ends the size of a garage door and all, I don't know what in the world they're injecting in there to get that, but like that's not what the body's made out of. So is that right or wrong? Like if God gives us our bodies for a certain reason, he makes them with certain things and not certain things, should you be adding things that aren't meant to be part of the body, whether it's silicone or other things, right? Okay. Yeah. Maybe that crosses a line, but like anyone that's got like breast implants, I mean, yeah, complicated. I get it. Um, so injections and fillers are one side. Augmentation, yeah, my nose is a little big, and it really is. So yeah, just get trimmed down a little bit. I'm not getting anything injected. It's like clipping your nails, right? Uh, is augmentation okay? Hmm. Well, what about facelifts? You know, you just pull back a little bit on the skin, and all of a sudden you're 20 years younger. You're not like adding anything. You're just pulling back the skin a little bit. Like, is that wrong? Yeah, I don't know. Is it? What about tattoos? Oh, now that gets personal, doesn't it? My favorite thing with people that love tattoos is one, like, are they going to look good on you when you're 80, your skin saggy? And then secondly, the thing that I'd like to kind of ask is like, oh, I kind of like the way that God made my body. I'm sorry you're not happy with yours. That you think artwork on it's going to make it prettier, right? The scripture talks about it, but then people are like, "Yeah, but it says this in the Old Testament, it says" I I don't know. It's all part of this greater question of, do we add and change our bodies if we're made in the image of God? I'm not saying you're going to hell if you are. I'm just saying there's spiritual implications to some of this stuff. Hey, we can take it down to hair color. Now, for 54, I would say I've got probably a little darker hair than what I should have, and we'll just leave it at that. You see, I'm not fully judging this. I'm not saying I don't apply some creams to kind of take away those darker sunspots. Like I'm not gonna get too vulnerable here with what I do to fight this aging process, but you see the gray and the scruff on my face, and it's not quite as gray and the hair, so maybe I might do something with that. So where's the line? What makes something right or wrong? Is it when you're adding something to your body that's not normally part of the body? Is it when you're pulling something a little tighter? Is it the artwork that's put on it? Who knows? Maybe the piercings. It comes down to the matter of the heart and this kind of concept of vanity. Because in the end, like, we're made in the image of God, but the problem with what all we can do now cosmetically is that we're able to chase the image of man. And there's a difference between the image of God and the image of man. The image of man is always changing. Like I said, the shirt colors, the things that go in and out, big booties, small booties, big chest, small chest. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just changes. And so we're forsaking this concept of being made in the image of God, being comfortable in our own skin, who He's created us to be. And we're chasing what man says is perfection. And that standard is oftentimes changing. And that's a problem. And then I'll circle back around to this. If once again we spent as much time and as much money worrying about what we look like spiritually to other people is what we look like physically, maybe it wouldn't be as big of an issue. Or maybe we wouldn't care so much about it to do it. Maybe we'd be okay with a little more gray or a little more sunspots, or maybe what our physical body looks like or doesn't look like. Listen, I'm not trying to tick you off based upon what you do, because as I've kind of exposed, like, I myself do some of the lesser forms, right? And I understand, like, where is that line? But I do know that at some point that line gets crossed, maybe for some of us early on, others later, where we're just way too concerned about vanity and appearance. And we're not called to be made in the image of man, but we're called to be made in the image of God. Listen, your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. That means you care for it. You should want to eat well, stay in shape, but it doesn't, it also means you don't worship your body, because it's not the physical body that matters in the end. It's the spiritual body. It doesn't mean you have to neglect the physical body, but the spiritual body's got to be what matters the most. Well, I can't wait to hear your comments and reflections. For those of you who want to do it, you can do it on Spotify. Be nice. I've been pretty nice on how I presented this. You be nice on kind of as you give your input. And once again, I don't take credit for this idea. It comes out of the Catholic Church, comes from Pope Leo, but good for him. I wouldn't have even thought about really addressing it, but once I read it, I'm like, you know what? This needs to be addressed. So that's what we've done. I appreciate you listening. Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. God bless.